The Giants lost the battle, but they won the war. They weren't able to finish off a sweep of the MLB-Best Phillies, but winning a series nonetheless against the best team in baseball. Really, you got to just take that. And now the Yankees come into town, one of the other best teams in baseball. Giants are playing well. Not going to let one loss take anything away from that.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, been hosting Locked On Giants for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there. If you have not already, please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at supplyhouse.com. And coming up on today's show, we're going to discuss the Giants winning 2 out of 3 against the Phillies and not overly dwelling, we're not going to overly dwell on the loss in the finale. To me, like, the sequence doesn't really matter. And it would feel a lot better if you won the last game, right? There's just like this recency bias where it's like the most recent game is the one that you remember the most, but really it doesn't matter. Like, they won 2 out of 3. And you would take that 100 out of 100 times going into that series to win a series against the Phillies, a team they've now dominated in San Francisco since 2018. They're like 16-3 or something against the Phillies at Oracle Park since 2018. So that's incredible. And the Phillies came in with the best record in baseball and may even still have the best record in baseball after the Giants take 2 out of 3 here. As I look up the standings, Yankees have a .667 winning percentage. The Phillies still have the best record in baseball. They're 39-18, winning 68.4% of their games. So for the Giants to win another series and to win it against that team, it just speaks volumes to how well they're playing right now. And it started really with the win against they won 2 out of 3 against the Reds. No, they won 2 out of 3. It started with the Rockies. So they went to Boston and Philadelphia, and they got swept by the Phillies. They lost 2 out of 3 to Boston, and then they won 2 out of 3 against the Rockies, won 2 out of 3 against the Reds at home, lost 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers, and then they swept the Rockies. And then it was that brutal 4-run blown game against the Pirates on the road that was then followed by 4 consecutive amazing comeback wins, all down by 4 or more runs, and then a brutal loss in the finale. They should have swept that series against the Mets. When I say should have, I mean, it's hard to say that because, you can say they should have lost all the games that they won on that road trip. But then to follow that up, so they followed up the first loss in Pittsburgh with 4 amazing comeback wins, and then they followed up a brutal loss in the finale against the Mets where they blew a 2-run 9th-inning lead, with winning 2 out of 3 at home against the team with the best record in baseball. And so that just goes to show you how well this team is playing. And the Giants, I think they were like 10-2 in their last 12 entering yesterday. So 10-3 in their last 13, something like that. They're off today, and then the Yankees are coming into town. So it doesn't get any easier. The Yankees do, in fact, have the second best record in baseball. So here you go. Best record in baseball and second best record in baseball back to back. And then they go on the road and play the Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers. Both teams, those games against Arizona are going to be big because Arizona right now is being held down a little bit, 5 games under 500. Their run differential is better than the Giants' run differential. So anyway, there's a lot going on here, but the Giants find themselves one game over 500 and in a playoff spot. They're currently, by percentage points, the number 2 wild card team, and so the 5th best team in the National League right now. That's the thing about the parity in the league, is that there are some teams, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Braves, and somewhat surprisingly the Brewers. And then after that, there's a bunch of parity, and there are some teams at the bottom. But otherwise, there's just a bunch of teams that are kind of in the mix there, and the Giants are right in the thick of it. So later on, we'll get into the updated Zips standing, playoff odds and standings, Zips projections for standings. Anyway, so just also wanted to mention, like, they won the middle game of this series was such a impressive win because they were going up against Zack Wheeler in a bullpen game. So Zack Wheeler just like very easily one of the top 10, top 5 even pitchers in baseball. 2.32 ERA even with this game. I mean, he went 6 shutout innings, 9 strikeouts, 2 hits, 2 walks. And the Giants went with a bullpen game. Eric Miller, Taylor Rogers, Spencer Howard, Tyler Rogers, and Sean Jelly bested the Phillies. And that offense that came in, that's a good offense. You're looking at Schwarber, Realmuto, Harper, Castellanos, Stott, Edmundo Sosa, who's having a great start to his season. And so for the Giants to win that game, and they win it on a walk-off sac fly by Luis Matos, it's not like there was much to write home about with the offense in this game. Giants struck out 13 times. They did walk 5 times. Had only 4 hits in the game, but situational at bats. I mean, it was extra innings. Sean Jelly had done an amazing job keeping the Phillies scoreless in the 9th and 10th. And obviously in the 10th, inheriting that runner on second base, and he got through it with mid 90s sinkers and keeping the ball on the ground. And Sean Jelly's emergence as a good reliever, I mean, a guy who's been being put into the leverage situations there, is a big story here so far of the season. And we'll get into maybe looking at some of the numbers later when we look at the updated Zips projections. But so Jelly, Randy Rodriguez, some bullpen guys have kind of emerged this season so far, as we are about 35% of the way through the season. But so yeah, Jelly to keep them scoreless in the 10th, that's a great position to be in, obviously, as the home team. And what do? Well, Wilmer Flores hits a medium to shallow fly ball, medium shallow, maybe just straight up medium fly ball to center field. But the Giants, this is a team that has some guys with speed now, and a lot of youth on this team right now. And so their automatic runner is Tyler Fitzgerald there, and he tags up. I mean, imagine if the runner was Wilmer Flores or, Jock Peterson, like of old, all kinds of guys that, Tommy La Stella, that just, there's no chance they're tagging up on a fly ball like that. But the young legs of Fitzgerald and the speed that he brings, he tags up, gets to third on a medium fly ball to start the inning. And then Luis Matos, with his contact skills and the ability to put the ball in play, which is another thing that has been an issue for this team in recent years. But you've got guys like Matos. You had someone like Jung-Hoo Lee, kind of among the best in the game at not striking out. So Matos is able to put the ball in play against a guy who gets a ton of strikeouts and hit a sac fly to left. And Fitzgerald scores easily because he's so fast. And it was deeper than the other one. It was just kind of an easy score there. But what a win for the team there. The finale, not so pretty. Kyle Harrison got roughed up a little bit. There's a little benches clearing incident, but I wouldn't, Bryce Harper got mad, but he wasn't being thrown out intentionally. It was crazy to the day of that incident where Hunter Strickland threw at him, definitely on purpose. Same exact date. So that's pretty wild because it was up and in on Harper, and he wasn't too happy about it. 2 pitches in a row, and the bench is cleared. So anyway, coming up in just a minute, I do want to look at some players who are struggling specifically. Like, it's at that point where it's like, it's not just like, oh, they have struggled, but it's fine. It's like been 2 weeks. It's like, no, they're struggling. And especially Jorge Soler. So we're going to get into the struggles at the plate of Jorge Soler and Marco Luciano in the field. It happened again yesterday. So we'll get into it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades. Supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Do you need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. All right. Here we go. We're going to get into the struggles at the plate of Jorge Soler. It's been a long process for him as he just has not been able to get it going. And also Marco Luciano's glove. Initially, I thought he came out of the game because of another defensive mistake, but he actually exited with an injury. So we'll get into that too. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, I think the time is finally going to come where Sully of Locked On MLB and I are going to get together and talk. I think it's a good time for it. The Giants are off today and just to kind of reset and talk about how well they're playing. So we're going to try to talk tonight and then have that episode out for you tomorrow. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV Channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also a reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. So, I do want to get into the struggles at the plate of Jorge Soler, who just continues to struggle. I mean, when I look at the box scores, let's see, in the 6-1 loss in the finale, Soler goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. And in the previous game, the 1-0 win, Soler goes 0 for 4 with a strikeout. So just to give you an example, like his recent performance, it's not like it's trending up at all. So the Giants overall on the season come in with a 104 weighted runs created plus, which means about 4% above average offense overall. It's going to hurt when you lose a guy like Lamont Wade, who was their best offensive player so far. So that injury, which we discussed on our most recent episode, is a big blow. And, they have a team on base percentage of 316, which is, where does that rank? That ranks, it's 315. I don't know why I said 316. Surprisingly, that ranks, that's the 10th best in baseball. So it doesn't sound very good, but that's 10th best in baseball. But so much of that was Wade, he was leading the majors by like 40 percentage points. So they need guys like Jorge Soler to step it up and kind of fill in the absence of Wade, because the Giants' slugging percentage is 18th at 381. It's the same as the Oakland A's, but their isolated power, which is more of an indicator of power than just slugging, because slugging is affected by batting average, which can be affected by singles, which has nothing to do with slugging. Slugging is influenced by singles, slugging percentage, but isolated power is not, because it's literally slugging minus batting average. So it takes singles out essentially. And the Giants are 23rd in this number. So they're not hitting for a lot of power. And Jorge Soler is a big part of that because he's not hitting for a lot of power. So, I mean, when just like simple counting stats, the Giants are 21st in home runs. This is a team that led the major leagues in 2021 in homers, or no, they were second in the major league. They led the National League and set a franchise record. And right now they are 21st. And I'm assuming they haven't hit a lot of doubles either. Like, let's see, the Giants in doubles. Well, actually, they're 12th in doubles, but not a lot of home runs. Just not a lot of overall power to speak of. So when we click on the team and look at the individual players, and I mean, what's crazy is Tyro Estrada is leading the team in home runs. He and Matt Chapman actually both have 8. Michael Conforto has 7, even though he's missed seemingly, how long has he been out? Like close to a month, it seems. Jorge Soler does have 6 homers, but overall is hitting 201 with a 286 on base and 354 slugging. So he's been not good. I mean, he's just not been very good at all. After last year hitting 36 home runs, in 2019 he had 48 home runs. Last year, I mean, just across the board, the numbers are down. It's hard for me to kind of pinpoint exactly what it is that, I mean, the strikeout rate is actually lower than his career average. Surprisingly, it seems like he's striking out a lot, but it's lower than his career average. It's lower than it was last year. His chase rate is a little bit up. In fact, it would be the highest of his career. So he's he's not recognizing the ball. I mean, he took a pitch that was like right down the middle for strike 3. So he's taking pitches down the middle and he's swinging at pitches in the dirt. So he's just all out of whack. He's just all out of whack. There's no other way to say it, really. So yeah, I mean, we're talking 45 games, 185 plate appearances. He has been up and down in his career. I mean, he's had kind of good seasons followed by not so good seasons. So, and he's also had injury issues, but basically when he plays and is healthy, he's been able to put up big numbers. And so I would expect like while I'm sitting here saying this is not 2 weeks, we are over a third of the way through the season and the sample size is large enough to make some, determinations about some things. Basically, we can say flat out, like, Jorge Soler is really struggling, like, period. But it doesn't mean that he will continue to struggle. And so, I mean, one of the numbers that really stands out is his barrel rate. If you look at year to year, 16%, 18.5%, 12%, 12%, 15%. And then this year, 8.3%. So a huge decline. And that's the rate of barrels per the percentage of batted balls that are classified as barrels. And a barrel is something that's hard hit and generally in the air, basically. It's the type of contact that results in a lot of damage, and it's a StatCast metric. And that number's just way down. He's just not getting barrels. Like when he's putting the ball in play, he's just not doing, it's not damaging type of contact. So yeah, he's just out of whack. And I would expect, on any given moment that he could snap out of it, but it's been season long. It's really been season long. So they're going to need him with Wade out. Hopefully, I think they could use a guy like Conforto coming back. They are banged up. They've got Elliot Ramos doing really good things, kind of filling in the outfield. But they do, with so many guys out, I feel like Soler is kind of a key player here. And then another guy who's worth discussing is not only Marco Luciano, but also Brett Wisely, who stepped in and done a very nice job in, Nick Ahmed is out. Marco Luciano kind of lost his job, and then Brett Wisely's kind of stepped in and been amazing. So for Luciano, I thought he was removed initially from this game because of another defensive mistake, but it turns out he was removed from the game with hamstring, with a right hamstring strain, and so another injury for the Giants. What's crazy is like Luciano's really hit. He's on the season. It is just 10 games, but an 18% strikeout rate, 16% chase rate. These are all incredible numbers in a small sample, but still. And hitting 375 with a 444 on base and 542 slugging. So that's a guy whose bat I want in the lineup, and he was in there batting second yesterday, and then he came out. And so I was like, wow, they really, Bob Melvin really didn't have patience for that defensive mistake where he just kind of took too much time. His internal clock was off. It was a routine ground ball, and he just kind of shuffle stepped a couple times, and the throw was late. He just needed to get rid of it quicker or charge it more, or he just basically needed to hurry up, and he didn't. But then he came out, but it turns out he had tweaked the hamstring, kind of legging out. I think it was a hit earlier in the game. He made so many defensive mistakes on that trip. This was a mailbag question, and I said, no, like it's not time yet to make a call. Like people were saying, like, do you just like DFA Nick Ahmed because of Luciano doing well? And I was like, no, it's evaluation time. It's still evaluation time. And I said the same thing about Ramos. And with Luciano, what we've learned is like the defense is a problem. And, scouts have long believed he'll probably have to move off of the shortstop position. And I'm seeing that, like, I don't know if it's outfield or third base. I mean, they've got Matt Chapman, so third base is not open. And in the outfield, they've got, Matos and Ramos and Yastrzemski and Conforto and Slater. And so shortstop is kind of the opening. And so he's going to have to improve there, or there might not be a clear opportunity unless there's a significant injury somewhere else on the field. But yeah, I just wanted to point out his defensive struggles and that they continued. It was more of a mental mistake this time, but nonetheless, like the instincts, at least on that one play, weren't there. And just to give a shout out to Brett Wisely, who was really bad, frankly, for the Giants last year. This year, in 26 plate appearances, very small sample, but hitting the contact rate is way up from 77.5%. This is in zone contact, 77.5% last year to like 90% this year, and hitting 400, 385 on base. Sometimes you can have a lower on base percentage than batting average. It's because of sacrifice hits. They don't hurt your batting average, but they do count against your on base percentage. That's how that happens. Slugging 560. He's just been on a tear. And then defensively, he's been able to handle the shortstop position and look pretty good doing it. So, one defensive run saved, one out above average, according to the, DR defensive run saved and outs above average, which is a StatCast metric. And the guy could play center field and second base. Like, he's versatile. And so he's totally changed his stance too. If you look at the way he's hitting now versus the way he was set up last year, it's a totally different look pre-pitch. And it's working. I mean, he's just like on fire right now. Every time he comes up, basically, it seems like he's getting a hit. So that's kind of the state of the shortstop position. We await, the Giants do send out medical updates. Maybe they'll send one out today. I'm not sure. But yeah, like Brett Wisely's kind of saving the day right now. And Tyler Fitzgerald can also play short. And so Luciano, like I would say, like generally, I want to see him play more. But if he's injured, which he is now, then you're going to see Fitzgerald and you're going to see Wisely. And thankfully, those two are playing well. Fitzgerald was tearing. He had 6 homers in 6 games in the minors, and then they called him right back up. And yeah, so we're going to get a look at young players. Like I said before the season started, people get hurt and you get your look at your young players. And we've seen a ton of it. Like so many young players. It's like too many. It's like calm down a little bit. We need some of these veterans to stay healthy. So hopefully even the young players getting injured with Luciano. So anyway, coming up in just a minute, we're going to turn our attention to the updated Zips projections. We are significantly through the season at this point. It's time to like take a step back and see overall how have things changed or not changed, and what are the Giants' playoff odds according to Zips, this kind of prominent projection system, now that we've played 35% of the season. So we'll get into that in just a minute, and before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. I am looking at fanduel.com right now and checking out the Mavericks at Timberwolves, which starts in about 5 hours. And the the Timberwolves are money line favorites at minus 198. And so place that $5 bet. That's what I would do on the Timberwolves to win. And if that wins, then you get 150 in bonus bets, again, by going to fanduel.com/locked on. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, here we go. We're going to get into the updated Zips projections. Zips is kind of a projection system that in recent years has been a little bit higher on the Giants than average, I would say. Like some of the other ones are less high on the Giants. Like even if you look on fangraphs.com simply and you look at, you can go and scroll and see standings and then click 2024 playoff odds, which I'll just do right now. It has the Giants with a projected win total of 82.4 wins with playoff odds of 41.2%. And so it's worth pointing out that that is, I believe, a combination, like a just straight up 50-50 split of Zips and Steamer. And so that means Steamer is lower on the Giants than Zips, because when we look at Zips, which is done by Dan Zimborski, which is spelled with a Z, SZYM. So hence Zips. This projection system that he created has the Giants finishing with 84 wins. I guess there's obviously rounding. He's not doing decimals here. So this 82.4 is rounded down to 82. So Zips is Zips is at 84. I don't know what, it could be 83.5. I don't know. But it rounds to 84. And the playoff odds, according to Zips, at 49.6%. So essentially a coin flip, maybe slightly less than 50-50. But if you round that one, that's 50%. So 50% playoff odds. And kind of interestingly for me, 80th percentile win projection for the Giants is 90 wins, 90.3. So it means, if they hit their top 80th percent outcome, this projection system says they'll win 90 games, which would be great. Come on, they're owed karmically, like owed, I feel like, just have a good outcome, with the team. Like last year, I feel like they hit one of their worst, probable outcomes. And this year, the 20th percentile outcome is 78 wins. And so when I say they're projected to win 84, that's the median, the 50th percentile outcome. Like basically they run like 10,000 simulations or whatever, and then, sort them in order of win totals. And the one in the smack dab middle is what gets spit out here at 84. But 80 per, I should say, the number that is in the top 20% of outcomes is 90 wins, and the number that's like at the bottom 20%, like 20% and below are at 78 or fewer, and 20% and above are at 90 wins or or more, I should say. Sorry if that's confusing. But yeah, 84 wins with the Padres at 85, Cubs at 83. Yeah, and basically the Braves and Phillies kind of seen as somewhat locks here on the playoffs. I guess the Braves not so much at 80% with the loss of Ronald Acuna, and then of course the Brewers actually had the projection system has the Brewers with the same final record as the Giants, even though the Brewers right now have a significantly better record than the Giants. So that would be good. Like if the Brewers could fall back down to earth and that Central Division could be just kind of a race to 84 wins, that would help the Giants. And significantly, the D-backs projected here at 82 wins. because currently they're significantly below where the Giants are. And so that's why this upcoming series after the Yankees against Arizona is big, because you don't want to, if you get swept or something, that's gonna turn that around a little bit. So you want to keep them down, keep pushing them down, and keep winning yourself. So that's where we're at. The write up here says the Padres and Giants have seen their divisional odds get longer since March, because the Dodgers have done really well, naturally, but their win projections remain about where they were initially expected. So even with the slow start, the Giants got hot, and nothing really has changed from the beginning of the season in terms of playoff odds per Zips. And he says both teams are serious wild card contenders. The 50th percentile win projection for the last NL wildcard berth is 85.4. And so basically, Giants projected at 84 wins here. Getting to 85 is kind of the number that Zips thinks is needed, 85 or 86, to get that last playoff spot. He says a number well within the realm of possibility for both teams, the Padres and the Giants. And then he says, so could the Diamondbacks, but their odds of getting there are a little less likely because as of now, they're 3 games behind San Francisco and San Diego. So anyway, there you have it. That's the update for you from Zips. And that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, I believe we're finally going to be talking with Sully from Locked On MLB, checking in on the Giants for the first time in season. We talked before the season, but not yet during the season, and I really look forward to that, and I hope you do as well, and definitely check it out tomorrow. And also, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. And you can, just a reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. And a reminder about Postcast with Eric Engel for instant reaction after pretty much every single Giants game and Warriors and 49ers. Check out Locked On Sports San Francisco on YouTube, and Eric goes live right after the game. And you can join the conversation, get that instant reaction, be in the chat, hang out with fellow fans, and just talk about the game that just happened. And that's on Locked On Sports San Francisco live right after games. And then that shows up on the Locked On Giants podcast feed, just not on the Locked On Giants YouTube channel, because it has its own YouTube channel. Anyway, once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much, so thank you in advance. And thank you to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.